What's up, guys? Up until now, my storytime videos have kind of been a bit here and there as far as the chronology of my life goes. So today's video, I'm going to take you back to the beginning and sort of tell you a story from like when I was like 5 years old. So I actually remember every detail about the first house that I lived in, or at least the first house that I can like remember living in. We were living in Toowoomba at the time. I was about 2.5 blocks from school. On my block, you went 5 houses one way, and that was towards school. And then there was this big open area with like a playground in it. You went about the same the other direction to the other corner, and there was a little shop there. And one of my friends lived around that corner, sort of a block up. And yeah, I remember the exact layout of the house. But on the day in question, in 1999, before my sister was born, which means it was either the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, considering that her birthday is the 5th of January, I distinctly remember sitting on the floor in the lounge room, and me and my brother were drawing paper plates. Now, when I say we were drawing paper plates, the thing we were drawing on was a circular bit of paper, or it was a bit of paper with like a black circle on it. It was about the size of a dinner plate, and inside that you sort of drew your design, and then it was sent off to be made into a plate. I have my plate right here. Bearing in mind I was like 4 at the time, so my mum actually did all the writing for what things are. But this is my plate. It's nice and colourful and everywhere as you would expect it to be with a 4-year-old. That was my attempt at spelling my name, writing my name at the time. I think I did fairly well. It's got my brother on it in yellow, my mum and my sister in sort of this cool abstract way, myself and my dad, my attempt at a self-portrait at the time, my hand, which is not so little anymore, and then the dog and the cat we had at the time. I distinctly remember the cat used to love hiding on top of the shed. So the way the sort of driveway went is we had our shed sort of sitting in the back half with the door into the backyard, and we drove the car up, and they both sat snugly under sort of the carport. And the cat used to love sitting up on top of the shed because the dog couldn't get it up there, couldn't get rained on up there, and so it was just basically left alone to its own devices by sitting on top of the shed. I remember our dog was, fairly certain our dog was a poodle at the time. So that's sort of my earliest memory, but I have other memories from that house as well, like not knowing that a sandwich toaster was called a sandwich toaster. At the time, the one we had didn't toast it so that it was like flat, like most sandwich toasters do. We had one of the ones that, I think it was a Jaffle maker, come to think of it actually, because it left like the little grooves in it. And I remember not knowing what it was. And then one day I had like a packet of chips that were also crinkled, and I was like, oh, okay, that must be what it is. And I remember asking Mum if she could toast my sandwich with the crinkle cutter. That was a thing that happened. And then I had this really cool, like red bike. Had like the stickers on like the frame and stuff. I believe said something like Speed Demon or something like that. And I used to love riding to school, still do. And this is one of my many stories that have something to do with me riding my bike. For some reason, I just happen to have more stories riding a bike when I was like younger. So this particular one in question, we'd ridden to school, and then like gone to school, and then on the way home, Mum had actually walked up to kind of come back with us, and I'd sort of started riding off. Now, the block after, like, it started with the park. So you got the park on one end, then there was a house that had all these like trees, and then there's this big valley that I still remember to this day as just being referred to by myself and my brother as Magpie Valley. Had a single tree in the bottom of the valley, and a family of magpies lived in that tree. That was all that was in this little dip. And I distinctly remember being next to Mum and being like, yeah, nah, I don't want to get swooped, because I was terrified of magpies at the time. And so I've taken off to try and avoid being swooped by a magpie, and also because the hills were that steep that I really needed the speed to sort of get myself up the other side quickly so that I wasn't swooped by the magpies. And as I've sort of come close to the bottom, my brother's just come speeding past me, and only being 4 years old at the time wasn't the steadiest with riding a bike, so and hadn't heard him coming, and he's just come straight past me. So I've gotten the death wobbles, fallen off. That was fun. Was then terrified that while I was lying on the ground in pain that I was going to start getting swooped by magpies. So I was freaking the fuck out. And then I remember looking back to see if I could see where my mum was behind me. And instead, the only thing I remember from looking behind me is seeing a car come down the road that was next to the footpath, and the guy in the passenger seat was a complete dick and basically just laughed at me. I was like, yeah, well, fuck you too then. Obviously not knowing what that word was at the time wasn't the exact thought, but you understand the sentiment. I then remember looking up, and my brother's made it to the top of the hill, but he's halfway back down. I know he made it to the top of the hill because that's where he dumped his bike, and he was legging it down. Bear in mind that he was only about 6 or 7 at the time, so he's also freaked out by the magpies, and so to see him legging it down to help me get out of there has sort of stuck with me as one of the many things that I love about my brother. The only other memory I have from that house, because we moved multiple times, but that in and of itself is a separate story. Only other memory I have from that specific house was probably about a year or two later. And I remember walking through the sort of covered quad area where people sort of sat or played handball. I remember walking through that to go out to where the play equipment was, and then all of a sudden I've seen all these kids start to gather by there was a path that sort of went out. There was a railing and had some steps down onto the oval where we had our athletics carnival. And off to one side, sort of right out the way, were some tennis courts that like the older kids were allowed to use. And my brother had been one of the kids using it that morning, but the person, and I found all this out after the fact, but the person that was supposed to arrive with the tennis ball didn't show that day. So it was like, you know, like you bring the tennis ball this day, then they do it, and it was sort of like a rotating thing. But whoever it was that was supposed to bring that ball on that day didn't turn up. So here's all these, you know, grade 5 kids. Grade 5? Must have been about 3 years later. Here's all these grade 5 kids, my brother being one of them, stand on the tennis court with no ball. So then one of them comes up with this stupid idea that it'd be funny to play tennis with rocks. Now you can already tell where this is going, and yes, my brother did get ripped on for looking like Harry Potter for ages, but I remember freaking out when I saw it was him that had blood gushing from his head, and only being like, I think I was about 7 at the time, I didn't have a mobile phone to be like, shit, I need to like ring mum and be like, we got a situation. So there's me just freaking out for the rest of the day, like, oh my god, I hope my brother's okay. Because one of his friends, the same one that came up with the idea, had tried smashing the rock, you know, doing a big old smash, and had projectiled the rock into my brother's forehead. So yeah, I remember trying to ask him if he was okay, and he basically just pushed me to the ground. His version is he was so dazed and had blood sort of like coming over his face that he couldn't tell who was who. And as I said, a whole bunch of kids had swarmed to see if he was okay, and he was just trying to fucking push through so that he could get to the sick bay and like have his head bandaged up, go to the doctor, all the rest. So when some little kids sort of come up and like, are you okay? He's like, get the fuck out of my way. Didn't recognise that it was me, because he was just tunnel visioned. And yeah, the only other thing I can think of, and this isn't like a specific memory, it's just sort of more of a fact that I remember about being at in this house and at this school, was I can still remember the name of my first crush. That's a thing that I can remember. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you guys, because at this point in time, it's highly likely that she doesn't remember who I am, because I think we were friends, but not like close friends. Like I didn't like sort of hang out with her or whatever every day. But we were in the same class, and I think on a couple of occasions she may have been a bit of a distraction for me. I was in grade 3 at the time, so that would have been about 2000. It would have been about, yeah, but it would have been about 6 or 7 myself at that point in time. And I remember just thinking that she was really pretty and really cool, and that was it. But yeah, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you remember from sort of when I rebranded, I said I was going to try and come up with sort of a on-brand outro. I think I've come up with one. So if we recall that, I had sort of like named the channel Ace of the Arts because an ace is like an expert in something, but it's also like a playing card. And then obviously like that brings games then into like the arts of like music and cinema and stuff. So I think I've come up with one that sticks with that like gaming theme of like playing cards and stuff. So my outro from now on is going to be I'll check you later, as in like a game of chess. So yeah, I'll check you later. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you liked that, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and share it with your friends as well. And if you want to see more content in between uploads, you can follow my Instagram at Ace of the Arts or my Tumblr at Stories Around a Campfire. And I will see you in the next video.